or for that matter, more prestigious than my first guest, Dr. Hamish Wallace from the Royal College, who joins me now, I'm glad to say. Professor, thanks a lot for coming on the show.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Would you summarise the opposition of the college to the bill?
Yes, no, I'd be happy to do that. I mean, our college, which represents, about 10,000 paediatricians, children's doctors around the UK, to be honest, we've never supported the bill. But we've tried to engage with the government to influence the bill to try and improve the deal that will be delivered for children and young people. But we've now got to the stage when we feel that it's really not possible to influence it anymore. And we carried out a survey of our members, and they voted, well, the voting members, 80% of those who voted actually voted for its outright withdrawal.
Now, the job of the government could not have been made much easier by holding a health summit to which the health professionals were not invited.
Correct.
I mean, that must have been seen as a bit of an insult.
Yes, well, those, interestingly, our college at that stage, that was last Monday, was still, it hadn't formally withdrawn. It hadn't asked for withdrawal at that stage. And so we were invited on Monday, despite the fact that the government knew that we were still, in opposition and quite frankly, had a lot of concerns about the bill.
Just summarise what those concerns are, would you? What's wrong with the bill?
Well, we think that it poses real risks for young people, for children, which is what we're mainly concerned about. That is our ultimate concern. Real risks for children, for their care. Now, if you take a child who's got cerebral palsy, learning difficulties, they need multi-agency care. They need lots of different people to look after them, not just doctors, but also nurses. Not just nurses, but occupational therapists, physiotherapists. And this bill is going to make this care much, much more difficult because they're going to have different providers providing different parts of that care pathway. So it's going to be very difficult for the families.
Well, it's introducing a labyrinthine maze of providers, presumably, at least many of its opponents believe, presumably in order to increase the number of potential profit centres in it.
Well, it's a huge concern, isn't it, that the real driving force for this bill, we believe, is to save money. The so-called Nicholson Challenge of reducing the spend on healthcare by about 20 billion. That's the real driving force. And as far as we can see, what they're going to do that is to privatise parts care that children and young people will receive. And I don't think that's a good deal for children.
Well, few seem to. Are there any bodies inside the NHS who are any longer supporting this bill?
Well, I think that the support is weighted, quite frankly. I think that a number of other colleges, as you know, the British Medical Association, the Royal College of Nurses, have all declared...
And the Royal College of GPs, when the whole thing is supposed to be about empowering GPs, making them top dogs, but they're against it.
They're against it, strongly against it, and very, very unhappy with it, despite the fact that the government is putting them at the heart of commissioning the services.
Haven't we...
There's clearly something, so fundamentally wrong with the bill that is actually asking the GPs to be at the centre of commissioning, and they're very concerned about it.
You're a Scotsman, I can tell from both your name and your accent.
Yeah.
Didn't we in Scotland go through this kind of business before? I seem to recall Michael Forsyth, back in the days of the Thatcher government, when I first entered Parliament, reorganising the Scottish Health Service in this kind of way, increasing the number of potential profit centres for private business. And of course that was all swept away with the Thatcherites. Is this a déjà vu for you?
Well, I have to say that working as I do in Scotland, looking after children, I think that they still get an extremely good deal. We don't have the internal market that has been created in England. We don't have primary care trusts. There are actually a lot of advantages in terms of the health service in Scotland, and I think it's doing a good job, and it's a model that we should, well, I would, like to see rolled out in England, to be quite honest.
Well, there you go. A controversial note to end on. Professor Hamish Wallace of the Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health, thank you very much indeed. Damian in Liverpool has been patient, for which I'm grateful. Damian, welcome back.
Yeah, patience is a virtue, George. Good
Indeed
man,
it
good
is.
show.
Thanks, Paul.
Love from Liverpool. Listen, we spoke, I don't know if you remember, we spoke a number of times, but shortly after the Tories were unelected, but they got into power, and we spoke about Ramsay's health and social care bill.
Yes.
And I think it was about 3 weeks after they got into power, and we spoke about the fact that it wasn't even in their manifesto.
Wasn't in their manifesto, and wasn't in the programme for government agreed with the Liberal Democrats either.
Absolutely, and it's such a massive bill, such a crunching gear change, that it really is not safe in their hands, and it can't be. Lansley was I think the biggest donor was Care UK, his biggest donor prior to the election.
Yeah.
It's absolutely.
Well, all these companies are
nailed on.
salivating at the prospect of getting into the huge dripping roast that is the NHS budget. Now, you're in the profession, I think, Damian.
I am. Yes.
Are these representative bodies representative of their members? Have you come across any NHS workers looking forward to the bill going through?
Not one. I've worked in the NHS since 1985 as a nurse, and I've got to be careful what I say because it's getting very, very corporate, and you're getting hauled over the calls, really. But I can just say
what,
that
in this free country of ours?
Well, yeah, yeah, absolutely. The thing is, there's the waiting lists as well. The waiting times, they were abolished under the radar as soon as the Tories went in. Staffing levels as well. People are leaving. People are being, taking voluntary redundancy, not being replaced, and it's over lots and lots of different disciplines throughout the NHS: nursing, midwives, health visitors, consultants, doctors, occupational therapists, physiotherapists, and it's a breaking point with every single department. We're fighting a losing battle all the time. So stressful, I can't even put it into words. It really is. But the thing is about this bill, Lansley, he launched on a listening exercise, if you remember, about a year ago, and he called in all the professions, Royal College of Nursing, Royal Physicians, doctors, everyone like that, and he listened to them. And obviously he didn't like what he heard, because you turn around now and he doesn't want to listen to them.
No, he didn't even invite them, Damian, to the summit on the health service. Couldn't make it up.